All right, so today I'm going to be going over my deck list that I played at my local FNM last night, some of the decisions for it, and how I did, where I think the deck could actually change, where it should be at potentially. Essentially what I did was I was playing a deck with Repair and Recharge and Invoke Justice, and it was basically trying to get one with the Multiverse out or Portal to Phyrexia. And while I liked the concept, Invoke Justice felt really weak every time I played it. It didn't feel quite good enough. So I made the deck Esper, and I was still playing with Invoke Justice. And then I just realized, wow, every time I had Invoke Justice, I just really wanted it to be Invoke Despair. So I made the swap. I left in the Repair and Recharge. I did drop it down to 3 copies. I think that was a mistake, but I did manage to play it a few times. So essentially we're just trying to get one of these into the graveyard. One with a Multiverse, it never saw play at all. I did see it once or twice, but it sat in the graveyard without this. One of the mistakes that I made before going into FNM when I made the change was that I didn't realize that Repair and Recharge didn't return a creature, which is one thing Invoke Justice does. So I initially had Jin-Gitaxias in here as well to actually bring him back to play. And then right before FNM started, I realized I made the switch. I took out Jin-Gitaxias. Basically, I just made the sideboard transformational, and that's something that I wanted to talk about with this video, was just basically making a transformational sideboard and having the ability to make a transformational sideboard. It's something that takes a lot of skill. I'm far from any good at it, but it's something that did and can catch your opponents by surprise. One of the problems is if you're in a tournament or something like that, and both you know each other's deck lists, you can say, oh, well, they'll know that I'm going to sideboard out my combo because my combo's bad against this particular deck. But then you can also play, if you manage to make it to game 3, then there's the thing, does the combo come back in? Because you can combo kill some people sometimes fast enough where even their hate cards don't make any difference. And that's essentially what we try to do with this deck in game 1. Essentially what we want to do is kind of ramp. We have Cell Assist and Might and Meekstone. So we can either hardcast Portal to Phyrexia, which I did at least twice last night, or be able to Repair and Recharge it by discarding it with Thirst for Discovery or Faithful Mending. And then of course we just have the sheer power of Invoke Despair. I did have to make some concessions to the mana base. Basically, almost everything had to tap for black. A few of the choices we had cut down. I just wanted to play something that was good against aggro in the first matchup, or at least that I had some outs with Depopulate. I had some removal here. Still not sold on Soul Partition, and we obviously had Invoke Despair. One of the biggest problems that I had with this deck was when it was Invoke Justice was if my opponent played an enchantment out that I couldn't deal with. If I didn't have Soul Partition, I wasn't getting rid of it, and often it would take over the game. Be it Fable of the Mirror Breaker, be it Wedding Announcement, any of those types of cards that can take over the game, they were doing so, and that also led me to play Invoke Despair as well. But yeah, it's essentially just a combo deck with Invoke Despair in it. And then we go to the sideboard, and this is where we can kind of become transformational, and in multiple aspects actually. What I found was playing cards like Duress, having a few counterspells. I mean, I did give up the matchup with the mono blue. So if I did happen to play mono blue last night, I was likely just going to lose the matchup, unless I got very lucky. So I had to make that concession going into FNM last night. But what I found was cards like Duress and cards like Negate really weren't that great across the board the majority of the time. There was situations where I managed to catch my opponent with a card or something, but usually it just was a dead card most of the time. My deck's not aggressive enough to be playing cards like Duress or, some cheap counter spells. I do have a Negate in the sideboard, which I think I only swapped it in once. But essentially what we do is after sideboard, we can go with 2 plans. We can either go all in with the Urza and the Mightstone and Weakstone plan, and then bring in all of our removal. We have a bunch of Farewells, we have Faithful Absence, Go for the Throat, and we can bring in the Planeswalkers. But yeah, we have a bunch of removal, so we can either keep the combo in and have Urza as well on top of that, and then maybe the Invoke Despair can come out. Although, after playing with it a few times last night, I realized actually, the power of this card, even just overall. I mean, any deck that's playing black should make room for this card no matter what. Essentially, yeah, we can go with, having more Urzas if my opponent is, slow, grindy, mid-rangey kind of deck, because Urza can just take over the game. And then we also have the plan where we can side out Urza, side out the Mightstone and Weakstone, our combo, and basically just bring in all the Planeswalkers. So, and then be just straight control, and then either win with Teferi, Temporal Pilgrim, or just Kyrie, which also I found very, very good. It was the MVP 100% last night. Opponents were afraid to kill it. Some opponents didn't realize that it has Ward 3. I've made the mistake myself many, many times. And one of the interesting things was the ability to mill 6 cards and return 2 instants and sorceries. So one of the reasons why I kind of cut down on the repair and recharge was because this can also find me a copy of repair and recharge or invoke despair. So in other words, I can mill over 6 cards. I can mill one of these ones, hopefully. I then get a repair and recharge and get an invoke despair, or get double invoke despair or double repair and recharge. You know, get it to populate in one of those. You know, I could end up hitting a couple of faithful mendings, which I could flash back. There's a lot of interactions in this deck just with this card. I don't know if it calls for more than one, but this was the MVP 100%. You can make a case for playing this with the Planeswalkers in case your opponent kills them. You can bring them back. Again, that would depend on what you're playing against and stuff. But I would take the negate out. I would probably bring in another Planeswalker, maybe another Kyrie in certain matchups. The Hullbreaker Horror, maybe something like that could go in that spot. It would be very good against other control matchups. It's possible that I could maybe go with more, maybe have a 4th cut down just for the mono blue potentially, just to get rid of that Delver early. Another thing that I was still waffling between right up to the point where I actually started playing was Soul Partition, and the difference between this and Faithful Absence. Now, it did matter in at least one game where my opponent was playing AO, and I was able to exile it rather than destroy it, so they weren't able to get a card off of it. And then they had to spend another turn spending 7 mana to recast it. But then there was times that, you know, hitting a 2-mana creature with this really isn't the best thing in the world. I mean, you can do it, but it does feel bad. In those instances, I wanted Fateful Absence, but usually I brought in all of my removal against most decks. Depending on the matchup, I would probably bring this in. So then I would have this, or this would be my deck. So essentially what I would have is I'd have the ability to have Invoke Despair still, be able to cast Farewell, and have Urza. Basically, if once this is flipped, then I hit this, it's game over, which I did at least once. Other times I would bring in the Teferis, basically side out the Mightstone and Meekstone, and then just maybe go with one Urza and one Mightstone and Meekstone. So there was a lot of possibilities. I really wanted to have multiple avenues to win the game depending on the matchup, and this deck really fit the bill a lot. And I think it was all held together by the power of Invoke Despair, the power of the Planeswalkers, and the power of Kyrie, because my opponents just really never wanted to kill this. Even with the Ward 3, they really never wanted to kill it. I still think the correct thing is to kill it, but I think one opponent managed to exile it. The majority of the time, once it hit, it just basically took over the game. So that's the deck. I'm going to play with a few games with it. The intro was a little bit longer because I kind of wanted to go over some of the variations of the deck and my thought process with it. Some people might find that informative maybe, but that's the deck. This is the deck that I played at FNM last night. Hopefully you enjoy these matchups. I will say always get out and play at your local game store if you can, whether it's standard, whether it's commander, whatever it happens to be, whatever your jam is, try to get to a local game store and play, because after not playing for quite a while, I really realized how much I missed actually playing at my local game store. A couple of matches with my Esper deck from last night from FNM. I went to my local game store. It was a great time. Really missed playing with live opponents. I like the convenience of Arena, but playing with real people, just there's a whole different thing to it. Mind you, Arena gives you some bad habits when you're playing. I mean, I have a way to discard the portal. I have a removal spell. All right, Celestis isn't that great. That's not that great either. Okay. Oh yeah, one thing I did talk about was I'm playing 3 of these gain 1 life lands. They actually ended up mattering last night, so it's pretty important. I think they can probably be changed for something else, but they were very important. Okay, let's play the Celestis. Sure. I'm just playing against Esper. First game isn't good for me. It's even worse. Likely just game over here, but we're just gonna end. Wow. Okay. It's awful stuff here. Playing 25 lands. There's not a whole lot I can do about this. That was something else I didn't talk about as well, is the Celestis, the Celesis. It actually can draw and discard spells. Used it quite a bit, actually. It was very, very important in the deck. I'm going to take a lot of damage here. There isn't much I can do about it, though. Need to find an answer, and I did not. We're going to concede there, I think. I'm going to discard that, discard this. Well, we didn't get there, so we're going into the next match. 17 cards, and I saw 4 lands. Okay, okay. So now we're going to sideboard this out. And I think we're going to go with the Urza plan in game number 2. And let's see. Bring the farewells in. We're going to cut down a search and bring the negate. And we'll go for the throat. And that's it. So for something a little bit better. This is better. Now it's possible that because they're playing black and white that they also are playing Invoke Despair. We'll see how this does in this matchup now. They're likely playing Duress. I'm just going to play this out anyway. Oh, they're playing Legends? Alright. I'm just going to kill that. We'll play the... I probably should have kept that up and played the Celestis and then had cut down, but that's okay. This also helps you get Invoke Despair on much sooner. That's one of the other things I liked about the deck too, was it being able to cast a turn 4 Invoke Despair. It's pretty sweet. I'll probably try to pop it now, but that's okay. There must just be black-white. Farewell's a pretty good draw. Nice. So on to game number 3. So now we're going to swap these, I think. Maybe go like this. Maybe like this. Oops. 1 and 1 and bring in Myrel. No, I can't keep that. I can't really keep that. All right. That and probably Teferi. And hopefully I draw land. Again, that is one good thing about playing a deck that somebody doesn't really know what's going on. Especially when you present one version of a deck and then you present a different version of the deck. I think I'm just going to play this. Play Takenuma. And we're going to pass. I'll probably just take the damage unless they pump the knight by a lot. If they decide to pump the knight, I'm just going to soul partition it. Sure. Okay, we're going to discard the Raffine and discard the other Thirst. Okay. Hopefully we draw Depopulate. I could have played Myrel there as well, but I think Myrel will come down next turn. Or I'll play the Celestis and leave Soul Partition up. Play the land. We're going to... That's going to cost 6. So on their upkeep... Let's see how this goes here for me. So now they're either forced to replay the Sarah, and then they can't actually play a card, and then I can respond to it. Okay, that's not great. They didn't have the 6th land, which is good. Just gonna kill this thing. Ugh, I'm drawing a lot of land here. I think we're just gonna go activating here. Oh, no, no! In other words, not miss triggers like that. It's really terrible. They kept in the removal and they didn't see a single creature last game. All right, this time we'll click take action, please. Thank you. Now we'll activate it again. Autopay. We will take action. No, we'll discard the Faithful Mending. Even though I can't cast the Thirst for Discovery or the Faithful Mending now. I'm still in shock that they kept in removal when they didn't see a single creature either game. Yeesh. Okay. Wish I had that negate. Alright. Hopefully we draw something. Wow. Farewell. Discard the land. I'm not going to do... We're going to go digging, I guess. See what happens here. Now they could choose... I'm going to wait for them to see if they tap out for the Sarah Paragon. Yeah. Now I'll get rid of everything. That's a neat little combo. Drawing all the land here. All the land. Alright. So all creatures, all graveyards. We'll go a looting again. Not a land this time. It's a land. Well, I've drawn... Don't know how many lands now for the last few turns, but... it's been quite a bit. Oh, more land. Take action. Okay. I'm just gonna have to pass here. There's no way my opponent's not sitting on a handful of removal spells over there. Yeah, just gonna draw here. Well, that doesn't do anything for me. Matches can be a bit slow. We'll keep it just because it deals with the creature over there. There's an Urza, finally. My opponent is 50. He's got 58 cards in together in exile. He's got 64, 65, 66. Wait a minute here. He's got 19, 58, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74 cards. Yep. There's a Teferi. Unfortunately, they're probably sitting on a bunch of removal spells over there. They're not playing any creatures. Okay, well, that's something. At least I have the potential to activate Teferi here. Do I have enough mana? I think I have enough to do Farewell and Temporal Pilgrim. Okay, well, let's play land. Let's play the Farewell. I'm going... Yeah, I should actually draw here. Sure. Urza, getting rid of Urza might have been a mistake there. Considering my Takanuma is over here. There's some Invoked Despairs. There's no way they're not playing a ton of removal spells here. So, that's okay, though. They may not have a way to deal with Planeswalkers. So, doesn't look like they do. Eventually, you run out of the removal spells. I think I can actually protect... Now I can actually protect Teferi with the with the Soul Partition. Oh, I should have... I'm a dummy. I should have depopulated first. Yeah. I was dumb. Oh well. Should have done it after the fact. Sure. Discard the land. We're gonna wait. I think I have... Yeah, I don't have very many cards left, so... That'll have to be a factor. It's possible that I just run myself out of cards. Because my opponent's playing 23 more cards. I have 7. I'm going to draw 4, 5. I don't think I can kill them from this point. Make another one. Actually, hold on. So I think with Invoke, I'll have enough. Oh, that person played so much removal for a deck that played no creatures. Sure, I guess. GG's on you, I suppose. Can I ultimate? Doesn't really do anything. Well, there's Kyrie. Yep, let's make another token here and play Kyrie out. I have to try to kill them next turn. They have another Vanquish the Hordes. Well, oh. No creatures in game 1 or game 2. Keeps all the removal in. What are you going to do? And is playing a 74 card deck on top of it. All right, good game. That's skill. That's skill. That's skill. All right. So as you saw in that matchup, I'm only going to put one matchup. That matchup was very long. Took a long time to get through it all. As you saw, my opponent just didn't care what I was playing, played whatever they wanted. They probably didn't even sideboard. It looked like they just put their entire sideboard into their deck and basically just milled me out. That's a strategy, I guess, against the deck, but had I thought that they would have had I noticed that they were playing 72 cards, 74 cards, whatever it was, in their main deck, I probably wouldn't have sided out my combo. The deck still performed exactly the way that it did last night, siding into the Teferi and stuff, able to take over the game very easily with all the removal, the Invoke Despair. It was unfortunate that Kyrie was way down at the bottom of the list, or way at the bottom of my deck. I think 4 cards from the bottom. But that is something that you do run into with this. You can run into time constraints, and you can also run into where you can deck yourself if your opponent is playing the exact specific answers to the things that you have in your deck, if you don't have multiple ways to win. My opponent fortunately kept all of the removal in after seeing 0 creatures in any of the games. If I had been a pure control deck or a control deck with counter spells, they would have lost that game because they would have never been able to get the Wraths off or any of the removal spells. But that's just how it goes sometimes. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I'm not going to do any more matches because the matches take a long time. That was exceptionally long and exceptionally excruciating matchup where I ran into a point where I was drawing a bunch of lands, as you saw. I won't cite that specific matchup as a need for a couple of counter spells in the sideboard. I do have a negate. Maybe Myrel is way worse than I think. But I know when I played in FNM last night, most of my opponents, if not all of my opponents, sided out their removal spells. Especially Go for the Throat and Cut Down, and didn't see those after sideboard. Didn't mean they didn't still have them. Take that for what it's worth. But I still enjoy the deck. The deck is the type of Magic that I like playing. I like playing powerful effects with maybe a combo to it with a little bit of control mixed in. There can be some tweaks, I think. I think this card in particular needs to be Thirst for Knowledge, where I can discard an artifact instead of a basic land, considering I'm only playing 1 basic land in the deck. And actually at FNM last night, I didn't play any basic lands. I'd swap this out for, I think I played a 4th Shattered Sanctum. Anyways, that was the deck. Hopefully you enjoyed that match. It was a little long, but the deck is pretty sweet. Didn't get to see Kyrie till the very end, which I think it would have mattered had I drawn this a lot sooner, where I would have milled and got into extra Invoke Despairs and stuff and really put the screws to my opponent. But unfortunately, they were playing a combination of removal spells. After multiple sideboards, they saw no creatures. Essentially, they just ran me out of cards. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next one.